everybody. Thank you for having me here. This is not my first time in Bangalore. I think you heard them say I worked at EMC for a while, so I think we have some EMC folks here, do we? Yep, one EMC guy. So I've been to Bangalore a couple of times as we were opening the new office there for EMC. A little bit about me. I started as a software tester back in the mid-'80s. So I have had the luxury of actually watching this industry be born and become what it is today. When I first started, we didn't have a whole lot of testing infrastructure. We didn't have a whole lot of people with software at their disposal even. So it's a brave new world. And I think that this keeps not wanting to stay on that slide. I think that when Mark Andreessen said software is eating the world, a lot of us who have been in this industry for a while completely understood what he meant. He was talking, of course, from a business perspective, that the new corporate giants are software companies, right? The Googles and the Amazons and the Yahoos and the Oracles, they are the corporate giants of today. And why is that? Well, it's because we've built our whole global infrastructure on top of software. We've given software an awful lot of responsibility in our world. It powers our financial markets. There was a time when Knight Capital was known as a market maker. They were known for actually helping to drive the financial market. Now, Knight Capital is much more frequently associated with the worst 45 minutes of their lives when they actually rush to get an upgrade done to adhere to some new trading regulations. And in the process, they checked in a test script. Test script did exactly what it was supposed to do. It made sure that everything was functioning, ran through a whole bunch of trades, but instead of trading in a test environment, it traded in real time. Lost the company $440 million in 45 minutes. And part of the problem was not that they had a bug in their software, right? Their software was fine. It was functioning great. They had a bug in their process. It doesn't just power the financial markets. It powers our own personal banking, right? How many people used an ATM in the last week? Right. I travel a lot, and I travel internationally. I rely on ATMs because I get off an airplane, and the first thing I do is I hit an ATM to get local currency. And without that, I can't get to my hotel, right? So RBS made the news a couple of times in the last few years because they had issues with their software system and their ATMs. And the last time, they affected thousands of people in Europe because they had a software issue that prevented people from actually accessing their accounts via ATM. Couldn't deposit their paychecks. Whoops. I don't know why this is just moving on without me. Software. We're all used to it, right? But at any rate, so people were trying to get to their money. They were trying to deposit their paychecks. They were trying to take money out. They're trying to put food on their table and pay their rent. And they can't get to their money. RBS actually fixed the issue in 24 hours. What killed them was that it took 5 days to process the backlog of transactions that they couldn't process in that 24 hours. So people actually couldn't get to their money for almost a week, right? That is major impact. American Airlines, also major impact. They had, in the last year, they had an incident where their online reservation system wasn't working. Flights were being delayed, canceled. People couldn't change their flights. They couldn't access their flights. They couldn't book their flights. They ended up having to ground 400 flights internationally which doesn't sound like much, except when you think about how many people are on those flights, right? That's thousands of people worldwide. And then think about the ripple effect of that. It wasn't just American Airlines that got affected. It's all of the carefully managed schedules at the airports of arrivals and departures. It's all of the travelers who are stranded. It's all the hotels that are holding rooms for travelers who can't get there. It's all the cars parked in rental parking lots for travelers who can't get to them, right? And it powers our healthcare system. So how many people have heard about Obamacare? How many people have heard about the healthcare.gov website? Okay, well, let me give you a little background. So in the US, this is the big software conversation right now. We've had 3 different presidents try to get through what we call the Affordable Health Care Act. It's a way for people who can't afford insurance to get insurance, for people who do have insurance to get lower rates. Insurance companies, health insurance companies, have been waiting for this. It's new business for them. Major economic impact. Americans have been waiting for this. Millions of Americans have no health care. So they've been waiting for this. And Obama was the first president out of 3 to finally get it passed. And interestingly enough, we are so dependent on software in our culture that the only way to sign up for the Affordable Health Care Act is through this website. There's no plan B when it first rolled out. This is the only plan. They touted it, they promoted it. Our government, did everybody hear about the US government shutting down for a couple of weeks? Yeah, that was political fallout from this program. So there was a lot riding on this piece of software. Everybody knew what time and what day it was going live. We have any load testers in the room? Everybody hit that website in the same hour. It crashed before the hour was out. When it came back up, there were security holes, there were performance issues, there's data transformation problems. People who could sign up, the data that was getting sent to the insurance companies wasn't right. Major, major, major political fallout in the United States because of this website. They had to quickly put together a plan B so people could actually take pieces of paper and fill them out and apply for health care that way. The first people that got blamed, who do you think that was? The testers. And finally, people say, well, wait a minute. Didn't anybody load test this thing? And the testers said, yeah, we did. And we told you it didn't pass. Software powers our everyday life. We've heard it multiple times here. Anybody who's got a smartphone within reach, hold it up. Yeah, everybody. You're not waiting for phone calls, right? You're Facebooking, you're tweeting, you're checking your email, you're texting people, you're playing Candy Crush Saga. You're not waiting for a phone call. We walk around with our software in our pocket, which if you've been in this industry for long enough, that's a miracle, right? We are so dependent on software in our culture that we have changed our expectations about software. It's not just those big news-making events that I just talked about. It's also just the millions of people who expect their navigation system to work. They expect to be able to post to Facebook. They want to take a picture and get it to Instagram, right? It's those people who expect quality from their software. And their expectations are changing rapidly. We want one-button interfaces. I want to go to Starbucks, I want to order my coffee, I want to hit the Pay Now button, and hold my phone to the register. That's it. I don't want a whole lot of interface. Don't make me pick up a whole bunch of things, right? My 88-year-old stepfather has an iPhone. You think he wants to read a lot of stuff? He wants one button. We want calm technology. We want technology that appears and gives us what we need and then goes away. Google Now is a great example of this. How many people use Google Now? I love it. I depend on it. It reads my calendar, so it knows where I'm supposed to be and when. It knows where I am now. It checks the traffic, and it alerts me, hey, if you're going to make that lunch meeting, you've got to leave now. I don't ask it to do that. That's part of what's built into that technology. The most amazing thing to me, Google Now, it's creepy, but it was amazing too. I go to the movies, my husband and I, we both commute to work. The only night we can make a movie is Saturday night. So every Saturday morning, I Google what's playing at our local theaters. After about 3 weeks of that, creepy but cool, Google Now started just sending me the movie listings every Saturday. No other day of the week, just Saturday. That's pretty remarkable. That's calm technology. That's technology when you need it and not when you don't. And it's not just that we want that information. We want all our devices to talk to each other. My car tells my phone when my tire pressure is low. I love that. I don't have to ask my car. I don't have to check my tires. I don't even ask my phone. My phone tells me, hey, the car told me the tire pressure is low. That's pretty cool. And we're coming to expect that from our devices. We want our devices talking to each other, so we have an ecosystem that works for us. But what does that mean? We've heard it a couple of times already this morning. What does that mean to testers? This stuff's not easy to test. And it breaks the paradigms of what we're used to testing. So we're hearing a lot of new discussions, which is very healthy. It's great for our industry. We're hearing a lot about context-driven software testing. We're hearing a lot about testing in production. We're hearing a lot about API-level testing, because we need to be testing differently. We need to be layering our testing, right? We've heard it a couple of times too today. It's not just manual testing. It's not just automated testing. And I would say it's not necessarily interface testing anymore, because a lot of software has no interface. You've got to test at the API level. You have to know where your connections are. Where are you getting that data? Where are you having that conversation? What are you connecting to? Are you pulling that data from a cloud storage facility? And what kind of storage is that? Right? Are you delivering those images out of a CDN? And how is that affecting you? Right? You have to know where your connections are, and then similarly, you have to know where your holes are. Because every time you've got a connection, you've got a potential hole, a security hole, a latency hole, right? So you need to know where those things are. And you need to know your tools, right? So a lot of tool vendors here today, obviously. I think we would all admit that the tools aren't the be-all and end-all. But if you find the right tools to help you do your job, then you can use your brain power. Then you can use parts of the human interaction that we need in order to ensure that our software works correctly. It frees you up. You use your tools to do the tedious stuff, frees you up to do the harder stuff that it requires thinking. And you need to find your voice. So the example I used from healthcare.gov, where people said, hey, didn't anybody test this? And the tester said, yeah, we did. We told you it didn't work. Well, the next question that happened, and it happened in congressional hearings in the US, this is a big deal in the US, was people started saying, hey, project managers, they made the project managers of this project go in front of Congress and answer the question, why didn't you listen to the testers? That's a huge step forward for testing, in my mind. Why didn't you listen to the testers? It's important that testers know how to communicate to the people who are the stakeholders in their projects. The program managers for that project claim, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but they claim that they didn't really understand the impact of what was being discussed. You need to know who your stakeholders are. When I was running engineering at R. Donnelley, I had a test group that it got very complicated. Our world, we were working at a startup that got bought by R. Donnelley, and immediately our world got very complicated. So the testers started building these stakeholder mind maps so that we could understand who were the stakeholders in our project and what did they care about. And we could communicate to them in words they understood, in impacts that mattered to them. I'm at the mercy of my slide deck, apparently. Before I go there, I want to finish telling you this story about, there was a tester I worked with at a couple of companies, and I dragged her along with me whenever I would have the opportunity to hire people. And the reason I brought her over with me was not because she wrote such great bug reports, but because she knew how to speak to people in the voice they needed to hear. Her contributions to our teams were not anything you could find in metrics. She wasn't going to show up in a report, right? But she came to every meeting. The developers, the sysadmins, and the test groups all insisted that she be there because she knew how to ask the right questions, she knew how to raise the right issues, and she stopped us from putting bugs in ahead of time because she asked the right questions. So find that voice, know how to communicate, it's important. And then be the innovators. So Raj, I loved it that Raj brought up Chaos Monkey. How many people know about Chaos Monkey and the Simian Army? Wow. So Google that. That's your homework. Google Simian Army. Netflix, incredibly innovative technology company. Forget that they deliver movies to us and save my butt in airports when I'm delayed and keep me occupied. They are incredible innovators in the technology sphere. So they actually were early adopters of Amazon's cloud services. And they knew that they were taking a risk. They were worried about things. So they said, okay, what are we most worried about? And they built test tools, which they call the Simian Army, that were directly associated with the things they were worried about. So Chaos Monkey goes around and takes out VMs randomly. And they run this in production, folks. They started in test, and then they moved it to production. So randomly, they don't know when, they don't know what VM, but it takes down VMs. And they have to harden their software to make sure that they can compensate for that. They have a latency monkey, which simulates degradation of service in various areas of their system. And they have to compensate because they don't want to compromise the delivery to the customer. They have a doctor monkey that does health checks. This is the kind of innovation that we should all be coming up with because we have in front of us a big testing challenge. We have to test things that nobody's figured out how to test yet. And this technology world is moving so rapidly that we don't have a lot of time, right? We're all feeling that. We deliver quickly to production, we're delivering on new technology, and we need to be the innovators. So I hope that has given you some food for thought. I think, do we have time for questions? Thank you.
I don't see hands. Who's going to ask the question? Any questions?
I was so complete or so confusing.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorinda.